Hi, welcome back. Today we're getting into estate planning using LLCs. We're starting off with the history and evolution of LLCs. To keep it short and simple, LLCs are relatively new creatures compared to corporations. They've been around for hundreds of years. LLCs have only been around since like the late 70s, starting first in Wyoming. That being said, there is an asymmetric amount of LLCs nowadays. If you look up the numbers, it is clearly the entity selection of choice among the different options. So what are the options? We have sole proprietorship, which is not filing anything at all. We have general partnerships, which is also not filing anything at all. Incorporation of a company, a corporation. We have limited partnerships and various types of limited partnerships and limited liability companies, or LLCs. I have videos on each of these, so I'm not going to get too deep in it here. We're trying to keep it to really focus on estate planning using LLCs for professionals. The three main things that people look at when they are choosing LLCs or other types of entities is limited liability, taxation, management. There's a lot of other considerations though that go into helping you decide which one is the right fit. Other things that go into it are ownership, intent and goals, flexibility, are we raising capital, what kind of business it is, and long-term vision. So I don't want to get too deep into all the different kinds of entities. I want to keep it at a high level if I can. So we'll go through one by one very briefly. Again, I have some videos on our YouTube channel that go more in depth into each of these. So starting with general partnerships, again, you shouldn't really use those. All the partners are equally liable for the debts of the partnership. They file 1065s with the IRS. They're managed by the general partners as a group. This is important for later. So everybody kind of has agency in a general partnership unless the partnership agreement dictates to the contrary. Corporations have limited liability of the partners, the shareholders. They can be taxed in two ways, as a C Corp or an S Corp. They're managed by a board of directors who appoint officers to carry out the actions of the business. If you're not happy with the business performance, then the board will then replace management. So boards are elected, officers are appointed. These go back a long time. S corporations are C corporations in the state in which you form them, who elect to be treated as an S corporation under the Internal Revenue Code. There's a lot of limitations though on whether or not you qualify to be an S corp. Okay, so there's a limit on the number of shareholders, the type of shareholders, i.e. they have to be US citizen humans as opposed to a business. You can have businesses as owners of an S corp, but they must be 100% owners, and you have to file a Q sub if it's already an S to make it into a parent sub legitimate structure. So S corporations are really tax designations of a C corp for legal purposes. So therefore they have the same governance, the same legal. Board of directors are elected, officers are appointed. These date back to the 50s, but have become more prolific since the 80s. Probably since that massive overhaul of the Internal Revenue Code in the 80s, I believe in 1986. Limited partnerships are very prevalent in law firms and other professional entities. There's different kinds with lots of L's. There's limited partnership, limited liability partnership, limited liability, limited partnership, and so forth. They're not worth getting into. They're all kind of the same. There's a general partner who runs it, and there's a limited partner or numerous limited partners who have passive interests. The general partner is usually responsible for all debt, which is why they're generally a company or an LLC themselves. Getting into LLCs. So today's all about LLCs and estate planning. So why LLCs over other entities? Okay. And that's because of a few reasons, one of which is flexibility. So starting with the characteristics of an LLC, that flexibility is manifested by way of members and management. In a company, a corporation, the shareholders are called shareholders, the partners are called shareholders. In an LLC, the partners are called members. Members own membership interests. Sometimes it's a percentage. Sometimes it's units. There's no wrong way to do it. It just depends on the context of how you're structuring your deal. In an LLC, you have management which could mirror the corporate centralized management of a board that is elected and then appoints officers to carry out the business. Or it could be mirroring the partnership where you have a bunch of people running around with agency rights to bind the company. In an LLC, it's called manager managed. It's a tongue twister. Manager managed versus member managed. Manager managed versus member managed. It is truly a tongue twister. Generally speaking, I would advocate that you do manager managed for a few reasons, and I think we'll get into that a little bit more in detail later. So the point here is that a management can be flexible in mirroring or modeling after different other kinds of entities that work, like corporations and general partnerships. For taxation, continuing on the flexibility theme, for taxation, LLCs can be taxed in one of four ways. And that is C Corp, S Corp, disregarded, or partnership. So C Corp, S Corp, disregarded, or partnership. It's easy to remember. If you're a one-person band, one-man band, one-woman band, you're disregarded by default. If you're multiple members, multiple owners, you're partnership by default. But you can elect otherwise. Those other two ways, C Corp or S Corp. In terms of limited liability, we're going to talk about how that works a little bit more later. Today, we're just talking about the different kinds of entities and how LLCs compare to those entities. All these entities have limited liability with respect to the business operations. The shareholders are separate from the operations. There's like this little intermediary entity that protects and shields the partners or members from liabilities of the business. But that does not protect you from personal liability unrelated to the business. So we got to talk about that. In terms of governing documents, I think it's very interesting because people always, a lot of clients, they don't love that agreements are very long. They think they can go online, they can download a freebie. They think they can go on ChatGPT or whatever this week's AI leader is and produce an operating agreement. I would say, unfortunately, that's not the case. I review a lot of these and they're not good. If I use AI to make an agreement, it is different than a non-lawyer who doesn't do this kind of work, even a lawyer who doesn't do this kind of work, using AI to make this kind of agreement. So I would encourage you not to do that. That being said, they're very long when you get into them. And I thought that this was an interesting fact. I took the statutes for Florida, Wyoming, and Nevada, and I plugged them and I copy-pasted them into Microsoft Word. And I wanted to tell you how long those documents were. The default rules in each state. The default rules in each state, unedited, just copy-paste. In Wyoming, it's 76 pages. In Florida, it's 120 pages. In Nevada, it's 90 pages. So when you're talking about my documents, that might be between 30 to 50 to 75 to 80, 90, I don't know. It depends on what the situation is and the complexity. It's the same in the statute if you don't have an agreement. The difference is that the statute is usually very unforgiving and has a lot of holes. It's better than nothing, but I'm telling you, I've seen litigation over a lot of missteps, from Mickey Mouse agreements, free online agreements, AI agreements, and using the statute where it fills in. So operating agreements, which is what the governing document is in a LLC, they're long. There's intended to plug a lot of holes in the boat. You're probably never going to plug all the holes, but it's a lot better to have an attorney do it than not. I'm going to close this video and go into the next video, which is going to talk about putting it all together, the nuts and bolts of the LLC, and more importantly, my top reasons that I love them. So stay tuned for the next video.
Haimo